um, joining the webinar this evening. This webinar is the second in a series of webinars based about getting out of debt, both in your personal life and in your business life. And the webinar this evening is going to be hosted by myself, Derek McGuire, and by Kevin Barry and Company Accountants. Okay, we'll get straight into the webinar then, and I guess the first thing we'll do is we'll set a little bit of an agenda. And the main thing really we want to do is just to outline what it is we're going to cover tonight. The rules of the game, as is a pretty similar, are pretty simple really. If you have any questions, just type them in at the box on the right of your screen, and we'll get them as they become relevant, or we'll probably answer questions towards the end of the webinar tonight. We expect the webinar this evening to last for about 35 to 40 minutes, and if at any point in time you want to get our attention, just type in on the box on the right. We're following up on our seminar from last week, first of all, and the main theme for tonight is about cutting spending, and we're titling the whole webinar tonight, we're calling it the Latte Effect. And then at the end of the night we're going to try and kick off by putting a kind of a plan of action into place. Okay? So before we get any further, we'll just do a brief introduction of myself and Kevin, just so you know who you're listening to I suppose in one sense, enable us to give us some credibility, if you like, in terms of what we're talking about here. So myself, I'm a business coach with Action Coach Business Coaching. I've been a coach since 2002. In that time, I've won global awards, I've won European awards, and I've also the Irish Coach of the Year for 2010. I'm a big believer in networking. I'm a big believer in direct sales and marketing. I own my own business, and I've owned other businesses over the past 8 years as well. And I do quite a number of public speaking engagements throughout the country. And I'm based in County Clare. So what I'll do now is I'll hand you over to Kevin, and Kevin can tell you a bit about himself.
Hello there, everybody. Thank you, Derek. I don't see any awards there because I didn't put them up. I have a couple of awards, but don't mind them. You're only as good as your next award, Derek. And anyway, I'm a chartered accountant. I trained with Pricewaterhouse in Dublin for a number of years, and then transferred to the Cayman Islands. I've lived in the US for a couple of years, but I've been in practice here in Ireland since 1994, quite successfully. And I own, apart from owning that business, I own 3 other businesses, all of which have started with losses and moved towards profits, and they're back in profit again. I've invested in various things, and yeah, I took a plane ride. I didn't get to where it was going to one time, but anyway, here I am, still here. So I'm very focused and very driven in business. It's hard to, as I tell all the clients, don't worry about the tax man. The hardest thing is making money. So if you know how to make money and how to do it in a way that doesn't consume your life, that's what the pleasure of owning your own business is all about. But the gremlin under the bed is always debt. So I just saw a statistic earlier in the week that 70% of people who own their own businesses wake up thinking about money. Throughout the day they think about money and getting paid, and then they go to bed worrying about money. So you don't want to be like that. And but we know how to get you out of it, and I've successfully coached and brought people along with Derek to get them out of debt. So that's what tonight's about. Stage 1. Back to you, Derek.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Okay, what we're going to cover now is we're going to get started. So if we just go quickly back over the first webinar that we had a couple of weeks ago, and in that we gave an overview in terms of what you need to do to get out of debt. And it was all about having a certain plan for your business. It was about goal setting. It was about getting on the road to recovery. We also took people through the debt to wealth overview, which is quite a simple concept that people use to try and get them out of wealth quicker. And it basically takes people, looks at everything that they own and owe right now. It looks at how long it's going to take them to repay all that debt based on their current level of repayment. Then by making some small changes to their whole spending and how they live and run their businesses and their lives, we show them how they can really kind of accelerate the debt reduction process. And it's astounding the amount of money that can actually be saved and then subsequently invested and reinvested in your personal life and in your business by doing that. Now what we've decided to do today is at this seminar is we want to actually kind of break that down and explain to people, okay, what to focus on first and basically how to get started at that. So this webinar is going to be very detailed on the basics of where you're at in terms of your debt and how to get out of that. Okay, so that's what it's about. We expect to last 35 minutes to 40 minutes. If you've got any questions at any point in time, just write them in. And I can see that the questions are coming in already. So just write them in on the right-hand side, and we'll get to them as we go through the webinar. Okay. So what I'll do now is I'll hand back to, or I'll just take you through this. I guess this is the approach we're using, which is the IMF approach. And we ask people who are concerned about their level of debt or who are concerned about the amount that they owe, the first thing they need to do is kind of adopt a kind of an IMF approach. And that really is about being honest with yourself. It's about being honest about your business. It's about being honest about the actual level of activity and work you're doing in your business. It's getting people ready to make tough decisions. And what we say there is that if you're making decisions in your business right now and they're easy decisions to make, it's probably too late. A lot of the decisions should have been made when they were tough decisions, when you had to actually make a big decision. If it's too easy, too late. Be very clear on what the outcome of your decisions are as you make them, and make decisions on what's best for you right now. Too many people that are in debt and in trouble, you spend too long worrying about what other people will, first of all, think of them. Now that's completely irrelevant, because what other people think of you is none of your business at all. But make decisions on what's best for you. Sometimes it may make you unpopular, but it may get you out of debt quicker, and that's critical for most people right now. And don't dwell on decisions that turn out to be bad. If you make a bad decision, just make another decision to correct it. So we're calling the IMF approach because it's kind of a tough love, and sometimes people are not tough enough on their own financial situation as much as they need to right now. Okay, so I'll hand over to Kevin, and he'll take us through the Latte Effect.
Thank you, Derek. That IMF slide there brought a tear to my eye. You know,
Did it? Very good. Very good.
You know, be honest with yourself and tough decisions on yourself. Oh, hang on now, I'm just wiping the tears away. But anyway, it's very good stuff. Just one other thing, Derek will actually tell you the website link for seminar number 1 before we finish today. So for those of you that missed it, you can catch up on it again. And actually, I've listened to it myself because sometimes I need to kind of refresh the memory. Anyway, the Latte Effect. That's more of a buzz term by another economist. It's really focused on. It's kind of a buzzword to illustrate money we're spending that we don't need to be spending. And okay, to go through it in fairly simplistic terms, is we're going to look at and talk about the daily, what we each of us spend. Now, I'll zone in straight on being an accountant. Being an accountant, you look at what the businesses take in and what they pay out, and that says a lot about the people who run the businesses and own the businesses. Because no matter who they are, and I'm sure most people will agree, you can tell a lot about people by the way they spend their money. And that can be they can spend it a flash way, they can not spend it at all, they can spend it on savings plans for the kids, or they can gamble it away. But you can tell a lot on the way people spend their money, so bear that in mind. Then once you end up spending less than what you're earning, you are getting somewhere, and then to really start bringing your debt down so that you've no debt in 7 years, the way you spend what you're saving is the important part. So we'll deal with the daily spending. Well, the Latte Effect, let's just be blunt about it. When you're an accountant, you look at what the business is spending, but you don't look at what the employees are doing with their wages, nor is it my business, and what the owners are doing with their wages or profits or dividends or whatever way they've taken the money out of there. So often people walk in and they'll say, I need more money. And they'll say, well, why aren't you spending more money? And they say, well, I can't earn any more. And it's a case of, well, why aren't you earning any more? And so this is all the job pays me. And the answer to that is, well, this is all the job pays you, but they pay other people more than that. So you might be earning $500 a week, but there's potentially people in the organization earning much more than $500 per week, because they have other skills. So that's a different day, but you get the point. Earning power is one we'll look at in the next webinar, but let's just come straight in on daily spending. If you did nothing else but look at the way you spend your money for the next 2 weeks, and we don't have a slide for it, but I'm just going to illustrate what you should be doing with your diary, and then I'll talk about it. If you put 3 columns on the diary, and on the left you put item, Okay, so the item is what you're spending it on. The next one is amount. Okay, and that's the amount you're spending on the item. And the next one is a question. Waste, yes or no. Okay, so there's your question. And if at the moment you're spending, let's pretend it's 60 euros per day. You say, you know, whatever it is, comes in the week, or you have at the start of the week. By the end of the week, it's all gone. So 7 6 is 42. So there's 420 euros at the start of the week, nothing at the end. So you're spending on average 60 a day. If you do nothing else for the next week, start writing down where every penny goes that you spend. And let's just give you a few obvious items. Petrol, going into work or going out. Taxis. Parking might be one. Let's deal with the topic, the latte, buying coffee at lunchtime, or coffee is fine and tea is fine. But maybe it's an expensive coffee like a mocha or a mocha latte where there's plenty of, as they say, cross-selling and upgrades for extra cream. Buying lunch out, okay. Having a few pints after work. Buying a garment for the event on Saturday night. Sky TV. I'm just throwing them out here. Could be, you know, a nice bottle of perfume, or could be nice, you know, perfume for fellas, or an extra shirt for a guy, whatever it is. A couple of key things here. A lot of these items we're spending our money on, we don't really need them. And if we can make a 10% saving in what we spend, okay, and we'll zone in on that, it'll make a dramatic difference at the end of the month and the end of the year in meeting your debts and what's more, paying them down quicker. Now that's one we'll come to, you know, further on. So let's look at the spending. Why are we paying for paid parking if there's free parking somewhere else in town? Maybe it's a matter of getting up a bit earlier and parking the car for free on a different street. Okay, maybe the free parking is 200 meters further away from work and we just like the idea of parking outside the door. Okay, so do we need to be doing that? A good rule of when you're in the shops. Now this does, unfortunately, I discriminate here, apply more to girls than fellas, but that's what I thought, but I've found differently. Fellas are more impulse buyers because they hate shopping. They'll buy when they're out, whereas girls will shop around and might put it off till tomorrow. That seems to be what I'm picking up. But the rule is, if you see something you like to buy, okay, ask the assistant to push it aside. Sleep on it. And if you still think you need it tomorrow, buy it tomorrow. Because nine times out of 10, you'll wake up and say, actually, I don't need that jacket. No, I don't need that extra pair of shoes. The ones I have will be fine. And you get where I'm going. But by the time you finish that diary, and remember the 3 headings are item, amount, and waste, yes or no, I can guarantee you now, no matter who you are, there's items on that list you'll find at the end of the week that you don't need to be spending money on. It could be a matter of bringing in a packed lunch to work. It could be a matter of not bringing the car on certain outings, that you have a very good bicycle out the back, or catch a lift with someone, or get the bus. But there's savings that can be made there. And
I can step in there, Kevin. I did this exercise myself back in August of this year, and I thought generally that I wouldn't spend that much throughout the month. And apart from petrol, which I was using to get around, I actually spent maybe 600 euro just being out and about. And that was 600 euro even without buying a daily sandwich. That was just spending it on tolls, on parking, on the odd treat here and there, just various little bits and pieces. At the end of the month, I had nothing new materially for myself. It was just basically the running costs of kind of just running a business on very little. But at the end, I still had spent nearly 600 euro, not including petrol. So when you throw petrol on top of that, you know, you're up to over 1,000 euro just living in the month. And that's kind of running a basic business, if you like. So,
okay.
And I thought I would have been able to get by on about 200 euro a month, but it's actually, you know, over 600.
Okay, well that's typically shocking, because generally it is shocking. And I'll add another little killer point to that. That 600 euro you're spending that you don't need to be spending is after-tax income. So you have to earn effectively 1,000 euro to end up with that 600 to spend it. So and this is where we're coming to, if you're not wasting money in a non-tax efficient way, and the tax break side of it is something we'll come to on a different webinar, the saving is enormous. Now if that 600 euro was over a month, I think you said, let's multiply that by 12, that's 7,200 in a year. Now this is typical. This is absolutely typical. Now, we'll deal with the debt element at a later point, but the point of the matter is what we do is we decide where we're going to put that 600 a month or 7,200 a year. And I mean, I'll give you a couple of simple examples. If you had a 200,000 mortgage on your home, and many people might have that tonight or less or more, and it's a 20-year mortgage, by the time they pay that off over 20 years, they've paid 90,000 extra in interest. Okay, so a 200,000 euro home has now become a 290,000 euro home over the 20 years. By putting that 7,200, and I'm just talking on cutting spending here, and this is only phase one of getting out of debt in 7 years. By just cutting spending and not improving the business, which is a different webinar for a different day, you'll knock 5.5 years off that mortgage and save yourself 45,000 odd in interest. Okay, and that's assuming a 4% interest rate, and the 20 years sticks at 4%. There's a few assumptions there, but they're not unreasonable.
I think if you just kind of, even if you just split it in two and said, okay, I still need to spend a certain amount of money to get by, but even if I cut it by 50%, which would be very feasible, you're still going to knock 3.5 years off that mortgage. And the most important thing about that 3.5 years is that if you invest then what you were paying into the mortgage, you can really make some big money. That's where you actually really benefit from this.
Oh, you can. I'm not against becoming a killjoy and stopping all the spending either. I mean, it's just intelligent spending. It could be getting up earlier to get to the free parking. There's one for you. Bringing a packed lunch into work, which costs you €1, as opposed to eating out for $9.95. There's another one for you. Carpooling for going home. Cycling. And there's actually a tax break on buying bikes now. Not going out every Saturday night and buying dinner for everybody. Eating in, doing it inside eating, and that's got popular anyway. But simple saying, do I need to spend money in this way? And this won't take away, if maybe it's a case of not going off on big golf trips with the lads because you've always done it, and it costs a fortune. And anyway, just finish up on that point. Actually, I'll just finish that. Hello, I've lost you there, Derek. Okay, sorry. Apologies to the listeners. But the main thing is just to think about what you're spending, okay? By the time you've that little diary exercise done, by the time you've that done, okay, you should be finding yourself spending less than what you're earning, okay? And the important thing is to invest the difference in paying down the debt. And rather than even the mortgage, have a start with the car loan if you have one. Car loans are the highest interest rate. There's no tax break on the interest. And again, your 10,000 car, over 5 years is about 16,000. So your 10,000 car is a 16,000 euro car, really. You think you bought it for 10, but really you bought it for 16. So that's where you put the extra money and get rid of that credit card and car loan type of debt first. So that's the Latte Effect, is cutting out the fat. None of us want to be fat, and none of us like being fat, and we all want to lose a few pounds. But that's how you do it. You cut it out. So guys, on the webinar, and I've done it myself, and it's great to hear Derek's done it. Just 3 columns: item, what you're spending, and waste, yes or no. Do that for a week minimum, a month maximum, and I'll be blunt with it, it'll change your life.
Okay,
back to you, Derek, baby.
The main thing there will be to make the decision that at the end of the month to actually decide that you are going to make changes. Now, what we're talking about here may appear a bit draconian to people, but I visit, let's say, I meet 20 different people every week. They've all got similar challenges in that they're all not strapped for cash, but it's very tight, and they've all got huge debts that they're repaying because of decisions they made through the boom years, which at the time seemed like the right decisions, but they're now costing them money, and they'd rather get out of them. So if we do the right thing by everyone and try and trade our way out of that bad debt situation, then we're trying to accelerate that trading out of it by basically cutting down on spending. And like Kevin said earlier, it's not about being a killjoy. It's about saying, asking yourself the question, is this really going to enhance my life in the long term? And too often over the past 10 years, there was too much of instant gratification going on. There was too much things done on a whim. And some of them we're still paying for, and we will still have to pay for forever. So our policy really is that, rather than kind of blaming Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Labour, whoever the political party is, or rather than blaming, property developers or whoever it is, let's look at ourselves and take full responsibility for ourselves first, and do the plan. do the budget as much as we possibly can, and actually take control of your spending. And even if you take control and go back even to your own homes and say, okay, what's my household spending? I did an analysis a couple of months ago in terms of all the policies that we had out in terms of life policies, income protection policies, even household insurance. And the amount you can actually cut off those and save and still be fully protected is unreal. And the important thing is that if you can save, let's say, €500 a month, then you've got to say, okay, how much sales in my business would I have to do to generate €500 net profit? In actual fact, it's like Kevin said, that's €500 net of tax. So add on tax onto that at 42%, and you're upwards of €800 or €900. If you operate a business that generates a 10% net tax, that's the same as €10,000 worth of sales. And there's a lot of businesses right now that would die for €10,000 worth of extra sales. So that's the impact of saving €500 a month personally, is you're kind of allowing yourself, I suppose, a bit of head space in business where you don't have to make that extra €10,000 worth of sales. And then when you do make the €10,000 worth of sales, we move on to the next thing, which is that's there to invest or put back in or build your business a bit more. So that's where the acceleration comes in. There was too much waste. There was too much fat in businesses. I was actually with a client this evening who in 2008 and 2007 turned over $2 million each year. And last year they turned over $1.3 million, but they made more profit because they'd cut out so much waste out of the business at the same time. So while the turnover was way down by €700,000, they made more profit last year. And that's the difference, because they watched what they were spending like hogs. So I think the main thing is, once you can apply it to your personal life, because it's more personal to you, and then you take that into your business, you'll actually become very disciplined in the way you run your business. And when you start to do that in your business, you actually sharpen up every area of your business as well. You become sharper as a business person. When you meet clients, you're sharper. You're actually thinking a lot clearer. And I think that's where the Latte Effect has a bigger knock-on effect, not just in your home life, but in your business as well. And it's this spending, this grinding down that's happening right now that's causing people to lose focus on the business. And given that most people on the call tonight are business owners, what's happening most of them is that they're so consumed by the debt and bills, etc., that they lose concentration and focus on trying to grow the business. So we're saying, and fairly categorically, that just by measuring your daily spending personally, you'll actually have a positive effect on the sales and the growth of your business subsequently as well. You want to add anything else, Kevin?
No, that's it in a nutshell. I mean, the next point to move on to, which is the next webinar, is to accelerate the business forward by 10%. So if you cut your spending by 10% and you can move the business forward by 10%, I guarantee you this will definitely be gone in 7 years, because you'll find that the law of attraction will come into it. Like, you won't be under the same level of stress as, I need more money from the business to fund this wasteful cash flow scene I've got myself into. So by cutting the waste out of your business and out of yourself, and making the business, as you said with that example there, a much more profitable scenario with less sales, you'll find you'll be hurtling towards getting to a debt-free lifestyle, and we all want to get towards that. Yeah. Every one of us, and not be too old to enjoy it.
Okay, and I guess to add to that as well is, once you get into the habit of creating your spending pattern, or identifying what your spending pattern is, what you're going to start to do then is you're going to start to budget for your personal life. And the challenge for a lot of small business owners in Ireland is they don't actually pay themselves a wage every week. They pay themselves whatever the business can afford to pay them. And what happens in that situation then is that they invariably don't pay themselves enough, or they take what's left at the end of the month of business, which they end up actually earning less than a guy on who's working for someone else. Now, in my mind, that's not right, because a business owner is taking huge responsibility in setting up a business. They're providing employment, they're providing greater opportunities for people, so therefore they need to at least earn as much as, if not more than, your average person working in a job. But they're not allowing themselves to do that because they haven't got the discipline to budget, and they haven't decided how much they should be paying themselves. So therefore they're often trying to scrimp and save. And the reason they're doing that is because they're not focused on where they're spending the money in their business or on their personal lives. So if you save your money in terms, if you do this daily plan then in your business as well, it will make sure that there's more money there for you at the end of the month to pay yourself, which is yours to do whatever you want with at that point in time. Now, when it comes to business, every business owner that myself and Kevin work with, we look at, we do a budget for them at the beginning of the year with them to identify how much it's going to cost them to open their doors of their business every day of every year. So they know how much they need to turn over to cover their costs. Now, the first thing we do then is we identify areas in that where you can cut costs, because there's always things to be improved on. And we're not kind of cost cut kind of freaks or anything like that, but it's just, there's no point having fat there because it's just a waste of money. Simple things like, where you're getting your phones done, your ESP, your insurance, it pays to shop around on these without being too kind of over the top on it, but you have to kind of get the cost down in the business. And once you start to do the daily plan for yourself personally, you'll start to automatically do it for your business as well, and you'll start to ask the questions. Simple things like in your business, making sure that no one can purchase anything in your business if your business is that level without your authorization, or have rules for purchasing and authorization. I learned the lesson myself one time about 4 years ago, where I had someone working in the office, and I came in one day and they purchased nearly €500 worth of stationery. Most of it made up of post-it notes, all sorts of coloured dividers, etc. Complete waste of money. They could have done exactly the same job with about €50. Now that €400 that they spent, that's a lot of money. That when you take out into the profit, that's a lot of money every month. And if someone gave you €400 today, you'd be so delighted with the €400. But we had less value on it back then. So what I'm saying is we need to value the money that we earn in our business. We need to value the money that we earn in our personal lives and be very, very cautious of where it's spent. And all that money goes into debt reduction, because there's so many businesses out there right now that are actually doing okay, but they're being strangled by the level of debt that the business owner themselves are carrying. And that stress then that comes from that debt level that they have goes back into the business and affects the ability of the business owner to perform in business. So the reason we're telling people this tonight is that we're not telling them to become like Scrooge or anything like that. We're doing it for the simple reason is we want them to reduce the level of debt that they're carrying. We see people on the TV and radio every day, talking about having a mortgage to pay, etc. But there's an awful lot of business owners out there that have commercial mortgages to pay, sometimes where they actually have the mortgage personally and the business is paying them rent. They still have to earn the money to pay the rent, to pay the mortgage. They may have another investment property mortgage because they were in that zone at the time. So without pointing the finger or positioning blame or anything, that's where they're at. And our objective is to try and help people to get out of that level of debt faster. But it's about taking responsibility first. And we believe that you can actually probably pay for an additional property or loan through the amount that you'd actually save if you actually look at where you're spending your money right now, without adversely affecting your standard of living at all. Is that your view as well in terms of your clients, Kevin?
It is, yeah. I mean, you hit on everything there, really. Being in debt means you're a slave, really. You're always worried, you're vulnerable, and you don't have a few bob left aside to jump at any really good opportunity that comes up, so that kind of happens. It was like I was talking to a fellow this week. I sent him a little, we'll call it a bullet point email, and it was like become a millionaire, 7 steps he needed to do to become a millionaire, and he retorted with an email to say, I am a millionaire, I'm married to a lady from Malahide in Dublin. So I replied to him, I said, well, she used to be a multi-millionaire until she met you.
That's
so
right.
That finished that, so.
Okay, I've got a question.
Okay, about to hand out a question.
I've got a question here. So when I cut down my spending, what's the best debt to address first? So this person here, they're spending obviously more than they should be spending, so they now have identified this. Where's the first debt to address?
Okay, I'll handle that one. First thing is to see where you're spending, so do the diary thing first, and anything you're saving, okay, get rid of the credit card. Cut up the credit card now, and everything you save, if it's 20 a week, 50 a week, 50 a month, 600 a month, direct it straight at the credit card. 2 reasons. One, it's the highest interest rate you're going to be spending, all right, it's probably somewhere between 15 and 25%, and the second reason is there's no tax break on that. So you don't get any tax back at the end of the year or through your job with it. So get rid of that. If you don't have a credit card, the next one is the car loan. Okay, get rid of that one. And if you don't have that, okay, the third one would be the credit union loan, which is always a very high interest rate, even though they don't have any life insurance issues. So number 1, credit card. Number 2, car loan. Number 3, credit union. And then we attack the longer term.
Okay, very good. I think the main thing is that do the plan first. Take a month to analyze your spending first before you go trying to pay off anything. Understand exactly where you stand. And I think so many people rush into things. They go with great gusto, and they run out of steam then because they haven't actually got a plan to pay down a particular debt, or they don't understand the impact that it's actually going to have on them over the long term. That's the main thing is start with the analysis of where exactly you're at and identify the amount that you could actually get rid of without it actually adversely affecting your life. You know, take for example, even buying the newspaper every day, which costs €2. That's €15 a week when you take into account the Sunday paper. That again is €750 a year. Everything you read on the newspapers is online if you want to read it online. Most of it you don't need to read anyway. So, but again, 750 quid a year on newspapers. To earn that, you have to earn nearly €1,300 from your business. So what could you do today if someone gave you €1,300? So again, we reiterate the fact that we're talking about the minutiae that people overlook when they're trying to get out of debt. They forget about the fact that they're actually spending too much themselves. Okay. So I suppose the main thing, there was another question in there, is when's the next webinar on, which the next webinar we're going to be talking about is how do you accelerate your progress out of debt reduction, because debt reduction in itself is pretty mundane and boring, and people like to see kind of some benefit from that to them. And our next webinar is going to be titled Wealth Acceleration, and we're going to be holding that webinar on the second week in January. That's our plan. It's probably going to be on the Wednesday night again at 7 o'clock, so it'll either be on the second week in January, which is the 12th, probably the 12th of January. Okay, that's when our next webinar is. So you'll all get an invite to that. And what we will do this evening as well is that we will email you on the link for the previous webinar. It's actually, I can read it out to you now for all those people who are on there, but we also email it to you. It's at businesscoachireland.com/Derek-O'Dwyer/webinars. Okay, but we'll email it to you anyway. I don't expect you to be able to write it down as we go through this webinar. But I suppose the best thing we can offer you is we want to work with, I suppose, people that are serious about getting out of debt, and we want to be able to help you reduce your debt. And you know, for those people who have actually taken the time to come on the webinar tonight, we are actually offering some, I suppose, €497 worth of help for you and your business tonight. Now that takes the form of, there's 3 things it takes the form of. 2 of them are kind of 2 free hours of time with myself and Kevin, and also there is also a 50% discount on an event that we're running on January the 7th in Galway, which is a business growth club day, which enables you to actually put a plan in place for your business for the next 90 days. And that's a kind of a full-on day, which normally we're charging people €200, and anyone who's on this webinar tonight is going to be able to take advantage of it for €100. But those 3 things combined, we know, from working with people on previous webinars, the value they get by having a chat with us for a few hours, we actually get them on the right track. We also work with them, I suppose, a bit in terms of the psychology of it all, to understand why they're in the situation they're in, what they're saying to themselves every day, and what's preventing them from actually taking the next step. Because, and like I was saying before, the challenge that most people have is they get consumed by the fact that they don't have enough money. So they, like Kevin said, they go to bed thinking about money, they get up thinking about money, they spend the day thinking about money, but it's actually, they're not thinking about money, they're thinking of the lack of money that they have. And our challenge is to try and get rid of that and change that mindset to say, okay, how can I help myself? And I firmly believe, and I know Kevin does as well, is that if the country is going to recover, it's going to be down to business owners being proactive, and it's going to be down to business owners kind of taking good, positive decisions about business, and that's the main thing. We have another question in here. It says, other than debt reduction advice, do you offer other services? And I guess the answer to that is yes, we do. I'm a business coach. I work with businesses, helping them to grow their business primarily through effective sales, better team, better leadership, better marketing, and just the whole gamut of businesses. And actually on that Growth Club Day that we go to on January 7th, we cover all aspects of what we do. And Kevin is actually coming along on that day as well as a guest speaker to talk about what he does with people. And I'll let him explain a bit more about what he does as an accountant, which is probably different to your average accountant out there. So Kevin, do you want to explain about what other things you do other than debt reduction?
Yeah, the other side of it is accelerating the business forward. There's 5 key areas that every business uses in order to make sales and make profits, and we kind of, number one, identify them straight off. It's not hard. Everyone knows them when they're explained. And we look at ways to literally, within 12 months, lift the profits, if there is profits, or turn the losses into profits by a 61% swing. And I've got that number down exactly because we know where to focus people on. But the first thing is, anyway, this is the boring one, is actually to have your accounts right. Because the amount of people who make business decisions and don't know, what they own and what they owe, or don't know what they're making, or if they're pricing things right, it's just to make sure they know where they stand, and it can be done very quickly and very inexpensively. And as a business owner, they should at least know what they should at least be clear on what they need to know every day or every week. And 2 things. This is what I'll often say to people. They'll say, "Oh, I'm making profits. I'm really well off," And I say, "Well, how did last year go?" And I say, "Well, I'm not too sure." And then I'll ask them 2 questions: Is there money in the bank? And these days the answer is often, actually, no, there isn't. And do you owe money? And they'll say, "Well, I owe 50,000 between everything." Well, I'll say, "Well, you don't need an accountant to tell you, so that's not a good sign." Okay, so if you've no money in the bank and you owe 50,000, okay, that's not good. Now you might be owed 200,000, and you think it's coming in, but it's not in. You're still in the weak position. You've nothing in the bank, and people are looking for money off you. So anyway, we focus very quickly in finding out where they stand, turning it around, and getting to the point, which you taught me, Derek, in having the business making the money whether they're there or not. So that's what we do.
Okay,
yeah.
Very good. I've just got another question in as well. As someone who's interested in taking the 2 hours, how do they register? So the easy thing to do is, if you're interested in speaking to myself or Kevin on a one-to-one, just drop me an email at the address that's on the screen there now, which is derekO'Dwyer@actioncoach.com. And if you want to register for the Business Growth Club, just mention it on the email as well, and I'll send you all the registration details. But I think the main thing is that it's so, like, the easy thing for everything to do now is to do nothing, because no one knows you're on the webinar. No one's going to say anything to you for not taking action. But the person who does take the action, who does say, okay, put their hand up and say, okay, I'm in the mess right now. I want to do something about it. I know my business has the potential to do more, but I'm spending my time focused on the wrong things. I think the main thing that people need to do is do something different. Because if you don't do something different in January to what you've been doing in November and December and October, you're going to get the same results. So if you actually want a different result, you have to do something different. And that doing something different could be a simple thing like attending an event or having the free consultation with myself or Kevin. It could be a catalyst. We're not going to say that it's going to change your life forever. Well, I might and Kevin might, but we won't be that bold. But I think the main thing is that it could be the catalyst that causes you to head off in a slightly different direction, which could make a huge difference to your business over an extended period of time. So the main thing, and I think the main thing is the 2-hour consultation. It's free, no obligation consultation. We do it as a thank you for people for attending these webinars and participating and taking part. There's no future commitment whatsoever. So the main thing is that we want to help businesses. We see ourselves as people who've been there, who've been in debt, who've got out of debt, who understand how other businesses do it as well. And I think it's also an opportunity for us to give back. Sometimes we get additional business out of it. That's brilliant if it happens, but that's not what it's all about. Now, I've just got another question in here which says, I have a significant personal and commercial debt, and saving $500 per month seems so insignificant, and the debt seems insurmountable. Any advice? Okay, Kevin, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, that's my one, all right. Yeah, okay. I do a lot of consultation on that. I've done it for myself. I've done it for clients, and so far successfully. Okay, but we're always a couple of things are right. Number one is you have to educate the bankers. They haven't a clue how to get out of debt. All right, they just shout to you. So once you kind of understand that they haven't a clue, The next phase is you have to come up with a plan, okay? And again, I'm talking in vague terms. Any plan you come up with will be 10 times better than what they have, 100 times better, because they have no plan. All right, so that's the second thing. The third thing is we need to see what your plan is and if it makes sense. And if it does, okay, we at least try and agree that in writing. And if we can't agree it in writing, we force it on them. Okay, and I don't want to give the game away fully. But the last thing is then we need to say, will they take an early payoff? And we're actively looking into that now with a few people. And depending on the bank and your position and where you stand with them, reputation-wise, there might be a deal to be done. Depending on the bank, the amount that's owed, what we can offer, can we come up with what we can offer, etc., etc. But depending on the bank anyway, there might be a deal there which will get you out of debt in 7 years. So, but the last thing is don't hide from the letters. I know whoever this is doesn't want to see them coming. Respond to them even if to say we've got your letter, we'll get back to you. Okay, even do that because no response, they just jump on you that bit quicker. Okay.
Okay, and I think the other thing as well, that Kevin, I suppose this is part one of getting out of debt, and the first thing we have to do is watch the spending. The next thing then is wealth acceleration, because we know that if we can control the spending, we can then focus pretty much all of our effort in terms of growing a business and generating revenue to really kind of deal with the real debt thing. So we have to kind of, I suppose, plug the hole first, which is to stop the spending unnecessarily. Once that's clear, and we have a clear picture in terms of where the business stands and what the business needs to do to survive, we can then focus an awful lot more effort on being proactive and by helping people in business to generate more business. And that's the subject of the next webinar, which is still titled Getting Out of Debt, but it's getting out of debt through increased profitability and increased revenue in your business. And I think we see it everywhere where businesses are so focused on the break-even amount. The break-even amount just keeps you where you are, whereas 10% above break-even accelerates your getting out of debt. And that's what we want to focus on at the next webinar. So yes, the point made is correct. Saving €500 a month is so insignificant when you've got a big debt, but at the same time we have to start there before we can accelerate growth. Because if we don't start there, no matter what we do in terms of trying to grow the business after that, it gets sucked in and the energy gets taken out by the fact that there's all these debts every week and month mounting up. So that's I hope that provides some structure to where we're going, and we'll cover the wealth acceleration of the debt, the acceleration of all this at the next webinar.
Yep.
So I suppose, do you want to say something there, Kevin?
No, that's kind of it.
Okay.
The debt one there, the guy with the guy or girl with the commercial stuff. Yeah, that's pretty specialized stuff. Definitely be on the next webinar and think about Derek's goal setting exercise in January 7th. But that's pretty specialized stuff. So if they do contact you, Derek, and they want to speak to me, I'll be a lot more forthright on probably what needs to be done on that one. So. Okay,
very good. So I suppose to summarize, and thank you all very much for your attendance. The main thing is if you're interested in talking to us, just drop me an email at the email address on your screen, which is derekodwyer@actioncoach.com. This webinar will also be recorded and will be available for future review. We'll also email anyone who's on the webinar tonight with the details of the previous webinar, so you understand where we're coming from and the kind of the process behind this. And then if you are interested in attending the Growth Club, we've got 50% off places there, which is an immediate saving for you. And it's actually, we even go so far as to say that it's 100% money back guaranteed. That if you go to the event and don't feel as though you got good value, you can walk up to me at the end of the event and say, I don't feel as though I got value for my money, please give me my money back, and I will hand it to you. But I'd be amazed if you actually did that, because I know we'll deliver excellent value on the day. So I think we'll leave it at that for tonight. It's quarter to the hour. We said we could finish in 3/4 of an hour this evening. I'd also like to take this opportunity to wish everyone on the webinar best wishes for Christmas and New Year, and look forward to speaking to you all again. And thank you very much. Kevin?
Yeah, same here. Thanks very much, everyone. Have a great Christmas. Have a 2011. Let's hit the ground running. Don't dawdle. Hit the ground running. Okay. January 1st. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Over and out. Hello, James. I can't hear you though. Hello? Okay.